again. Today we're going to look at another one of our virtual test rigs, hydraulic test rigs. We're going to look at pressure and flow control fundamentals. So something important you need to understand and have a feel for. So again, we've got a drop down list, so you can select an experiment or you can step through the experiments. We've got our help screen just here, which you can move around as you require, and that just steps you through. It tells you what experiments to do, so if you want to go through and follow that, it's a good way to run through everything. We've got some instructions for some headings for each step of the way, and sound button, if you can be helpful to have some sound on. It's turned off at the moment. So what we've got in this first experiment is just a constant pressure supply, so we can change our pressure here. See the gauge is going up as we change it. And as we reach higher than the load rises. As we get lower than the load, it falls down. So you just need to balance that out. You can change the mass and see how that affects it, and you can change the areas to see how changing the cylinder area affects how much mass you can lift at the same pressure. And we've got our calculations here, force calculations for you to check against your applications. So we'll just run through very quickly. You should, the theory is you spend some time here until you understand it. You operate in the safety of your computer screen rather than on a test rig, which is you may well not have. In this test we can change the orifice sizes. So as we change our pressures, we should increase this size. As we change our pressures, the speed will change. You can experiment, as I say, just flick that to bring the cylinder to the bottom again. And you can see how the speed changes and how the pressure drops change with a constant pressure supply. I do a similar thing now with a constant flow supply, so we can change the orifice size. With constant flow, obviously the speed's not going to change, but the pressure drop across will. So you can just experiment to get a feel for these things, because the concepts can be quite difficult to grasp, but are very important. You have to know whether you've got constant pressure, constant flow, and then if you've got restrictions, what they're actually doing to the system. So it can be quite tricky getting your head around sometimes, so it's nice to experiment. Then we can look at some valves. We've got a check valve which holds the system up, and there we go. Closes when we lower it, as we need to opens when we raise the load. So it's just looking at a little bit on how the valves work in a very simple form, so it's nice and clear to understand. We've got a pilot operated relief valve, so what we can do is we can raise the load, then drop the relief valve, and you can see the relief valve now is opening and lowering the load. So you can watch your pressures, run some little tests and experiments, and see what happens. It's also nice because you can see what's happening with the valve, so you can see that you've got Poppet lands here and you've got spool lands there. So if you've got a high pressure drop across your relief valve, you've got a high pressure drop with a spool, which is an area of potential risk of contamination. So it's really good if you're a maintenance engineer, you need to understand why things are breaking, to look inside the valves and see what's happening. You can do it here, and then you can do it from data sheets as well and see some of the potential issues and look out for risk points. So what else have we got? We've got a reducing valve. It's nice to understand how the reducing valve works. If you reduce pressure, raise the cylinder, and it will, if you've got high pressure, and then you can drop the pressure and it will fall again, and you can see what's happening to the valve and which ports are opening and closing. Clearly not all reducing valves are the same, but general principles apply. We can also look at logic valves, pilot to open. We're just taking you through some fundamentals really, and showing you how they work and what happens, so you can follow the feeds through. So we're feeding onto the valve and opening it and closing it in the different ways, and we can look at the seats and how they work there. And again, it all works, and you need to keep your cylinders balanced. So the next one, we've got a pilot to close valve in this sort of situation, and a balanced Poppet valve. So you can work your way through. You can just change them here and add the valves. Experiment with different layouts, change your cylinders to balance your loads, and just play around until you understand it. You can experiment safely, as I say, and once you've finished, we've got our email button here, which you can click on that, and it records the work as you're doing it, so you can send that through to ourselves or your tutors, and that will all go towards your certificate of so what you've done within the within all the experiments. So have some fun, enjoy, and experiment safely.